There is a famous burger somewhere between the United States and Europe that
Right
has
in between.
garnered some attention. Would you tell us that story?
Yeah, that's quite an odd story. Basically, it all started with the economic crisis in Iceland in 2008. The economy crashed in October 2008. And it was so bad that in October 2009, even McDonald's had to close down in Iceland. So the day before it closed down, on October 29th, 2009, I went in and I bought a cheeseburger and French fries. And I didn't eat it. I took it home, just in the paper bag that they handed it to me in. And I put it on a shelf in my garage. And then I forgot about it. 3 years later, I'm moving from Iceland to Denmark and I'm cleaning out my garage and I find this bag. And I'm taking out old shoes and stuff and there had been mice in my garage and eaten the shoes and stuff. But this bag on the shelf was untouched. And I was terrified to look into it and what am I going to see? What is it going to be? So I open the bag and I take up the paper box and I open it and I see the hamburger. And it looks like I bought it 15 minutes ago. It's amazing. It just looks like new. And the French fries, the same. It just looks absolutely like new. And I was like, this is insane, I had heard about it and I wanted to test it. And it was proven right. It was 3 years old and it looked like new. Now I was moving to Denmark. So it didn't really make sense to take it with me to Denmark. I mean, we got McDonald's here and I could buy a new one here. And also, it was sort of like
you have to replace it before biting into it.
Yeah.
One or two new ones. Yeah.
So and also, I thought, I mean, it's like this is part of Icelandic history. The fall of the capitalism and McDonald's dying, and this is the last McDonald's in Iceland. And what do you do with an historical artifact like that? Well, you put it in a museum. So I called the National Museum and I donated the burger and they accepted. So for a year the burger was in the National Museum of Iceland. And there was a specialist that came from Denmark to look at what were the new items that they had in store. And he saw the burger and he was like, what's this? This is food. We can't preserve food. You have to throw this out. Which is of course absolutely ridiculous because it just preserves itself. You don't have to do anything with it. So luckily they called me before they threw it out and asked me if I wanted it back. And I said, yes, of course. But I didn't want it in Denmark and friends of mine were opening up a hostel in Iceland. So I offered them to host the burger and that we would put a webcam on it. So we put it on display on the bar in the hostel. And we put up a webcam, which of course, like most other webcams, didn't work. So nothing happened and it just stood there for probably a year or something like that, or over a year, until January last year, about a year ago. A journalist called me and said she had heard about the burger. It was an Icelandic journalist and she could ask me a few questions, which I said fine, and she did. And the next day there was an article in the Icelandic newspaper. The day after that, there was an English version of that article in an Icelandic newspaper. The day after that, it was in the Daily Mail. The day after that, it was in over 30 different countries. It just went global. And I was like, okay, we really need to get that webcam working. We were getting a lot of mentions, but no traffic. And the webcam was supposed to get some traffic to the website of the hostel, of course. So they call some guy who comes and fixes the webcam, and so it goes live on the internet. And the media ran it again, and this time it went to over 50 different countries, and probably more because I can't Google in Arabic or Chinese stuff like that. But it was absolutely crazy, and we got millions of visitors into the website, looking at this live feed of a burger where nothing is happening. And I even wrote that in the text, in the description, what's the burger rot or not? And chances are this is the most boring, uneventful webcam on the planet. And people just keep coming and keep coming. And even last December, there was a visitor who posted an image of the burger on Imgur, and then wrote a post on Reddit about it. And that became the most popular post on Reddit that day, and it got 2 million views on Imgur. And then he realized that there was a live feed, and so people were challenging him on Reddit, write this on a note and put it on the cam, and he delivered, and people loved it, and so again it got hundreds of thousands of hits. And it's just a burger. It's just McDonald's cheeseburger. So it's probably the most famous McDonald's burger in the world.
Or possibly the most famous burger in the world, right?
Yeah.
That's incredible. But there's something beautiful about the story behind it, right? There's so much amazing context and kind of...
It is. And, and you might ask yourself, okay, why does this burger become such a phenomenon? And there are two myths that I'm playing into. The first one is, of course, that McDonald's burgers don't rot. And people have all sorts of ideas on why that is. It's because they use so much chemicals into the food, or because it isn't real food, it's just, I don't know what, or whatever. And McDonald's says it's just because it's dry, because it's so small and little humidity in it. I don't know. I'm not a food scientist, and I don't really care. I leave that to people to figure out. I just, people say it doesn't rot. I tested it, I proved it, it doesn't rot. That's a fact. And people can watch it on the camera, and they can see I'm not replacing it with a new burger every day. It's always the same burger, and it doesn't rot.
How long has it been now?
6 years.
Yeah, so going strong.
Yes. Yeah, it's probably still going to be there when I die. So, unless I eat McDonald's every day, maybe then I'll be preserved as long.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. But another story I'm playing into is how Iceland killed capitalism.
Mm.
And that is a big myth that is going on. How Iceland, threw out the government, jailed the bankers, bailed out the people and not the banks and all that. Part of it is true, but unfortunately it isn't, the image that is being portrayed of Iceland. Of course, there's still capitalism in Iceland. The banks are still at it, just like in the US. We have, the old government, not the exactly same people, but they're in the same families that are back in power in the country, and they are more corrupt than they've ever been. We've got, Dunkin' Donuts and Taco Bells and Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I wish it was true. I really like the image that people have of Iceland and how it's all organic and authentic and no capitalism and all that. But the reality isn't that pure. There is a grain of truth in it, but it's not all that.